Welcome into the All 22 NFL podcast. You got Chris and Ray again. Ray, it's Super Bowl week. It's kind of bittersweet, right? It's the last day of football we have for the year, the NFL season, right? And it's two teams that neither of us are really fans of, which is unfortunate, but still looking forward to it. My feast is usually pretty epic. How are you doing? What are you
doing
going to
great?
eat?
I'm rooting, of course, for Saquon to get his ring, right? I think everyone is at this point, because most people don't want to physically or actively root for the Philadelphia Eagles, but given the alternative and how likable Saquon has been, I think most people are rooting for Saquon to get a ring more than anything else. But you could let the conspiracies fly because apparently the flu is going through the Eagles right now. So, was it a plant? Is it someone ordered some bad pizza in Utah or something? No one really knows. But here we are, a couple days out from the Super Bowl. I'm excited because it's the end of the season. Okay, cool, but we're still smack dab in the middle of draft season, so why not?
Which is what we're here to talk about today. But before we do, I want to talk about the food. What do you usually eat for the Super Bowl? What's on the menu?
Any type of meat. Obviously, we got the wings. Usually some type of heroes and some sort, and then just a bunch of Italian meats from my in-law side of the family. So just lots and lots of protein.
Love that, dude. Yeah, I'm doing wings. I got 50 wings from Handshakes. So with that special Handshakes sauce, which is just incredible. We got 2 6-foot heroes, one Italian, one American. I think my mom might be making lasagna because I am Italian and lasagna just has to be there. And then I think we're doing ribs. So I'm pumped. I usually gain 10 pounds this week, which is awesome. So looking forward to it. All right. Anyway, we are doing the NFL draft review. We're starting that process. Last week, we reviewed 2 of the cornerback prospects. We're going to continue on cornerback today, reviewing some prospects that are really interesting. And I was surprised, right? Like I knew this draft class, people were talking about it as a weaker draft class, which I think for some positions might be true, but it's not true for corner. This is a very good cornerback class. And today we're going to be talking about guys that when we talk about the all 22 era at the end of this era, it is like there might be multiple guys, 3, 4, 5 guys making that list, which is exciting, right? Like that's what we want to see. And it's good for your teams, Packers included, that probably need cornerback help in this draft. Starting out with, I think we're going to do Travis Hunter. Let me just give the kind of overview. He's currently 21 years old. He is 6'1", 185 pounds. He spent 2 years at Colorado. His first year was at Jackson State. He has over 1,800 career defensive snaps alone, right? We're not talking about offense. We're not talking about offensive Travis Hunter today. 1,800 snaps on defense alone. 9 career interceptions, 20 career pass breakups. I'm pumped to get into it. Why don't you start us off, Ray?
Yeah, so we're only looking at cornerback Travis Hunter today. Obviously, what's he going to play? Corner, receiver, both, depending on where he lands in the NFL. But we're strictly looking at the cornerback Travis Hunter today and evaluating his defensive snaps. And so, of course, we got to give the people what they want. And I think this game in particular does a great job of highlighting pretty much Travis Hunter, the player, all of his strengths and some of his weaknesses. Yes, he does have a couple of weaknesses, maybe just one, who knows, as a prospect when you're looking at him purely as a cornerback. And so even though this is 2023 tape here, I think Arizona 2023 is a great game to break down for Travis Hunter. Given who he's going up against, we're going to give the people what they want in Tet McMillan, but we've talked about it before. High marks across the board, we believe, for Travis Hunter at either spot. So let's just get into it. As you see here, top of the screen, I believe this is against Tet. So lined up in press, and just what you're going to notice more than anything else is just there's no real separation here. Kind of turns the hips a bit earlier than anticipated or that you would like. But again, stays on top of the route, and there's just nothing. There's no space there. He can flip his hips with ease. He can transition and change directions easily. There's no space at all there for a receiver to work with. And when we get down to some of the brass tacks and some of these other corners, you're going to realize it's just not the case. There is usually some type of separation or space at the top of routes. And with Travis Hunter, that is hardly ever the case. So simple, slant route in tight coverage. But the overall theme here is just it's suffocating. There's no space. He can flip, turn, accelerate with the absolute best of them. Want me to just keep going? I'm just gonna keep the love fest going here.
Just keep going, dude. It's all you.
Awesome. All right. So now we're going to be in a bit off coverage here. There's Tet at the top of the screen. Tet, that would be Tet McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, widely regarded as the number one receiver in this class. And so a lot of people who have probably watched Travis Hunter probably recognize this play from a lot of highlight films. But to break it down, what I like here, gets in the end zone and begins his squat, right? And so it looks like here, this is going to be a whip route, which is the hardest route to defend of any sort. A whip route at the goal line is incredibly tough because it's basically a two-cut route in short spaces. The ball's out quick. It's hard to recover. But I think Hunter does a decent job here of breaking down, changing direction. And again, if the quarterback was to throw this football, by the time he were to release it, say right around here, Hunter's already breaking and can cut that off. He is that quick. So even though you see some separation here at the top of that route here, or rather after the break, he will close on that quickly. I think everyone knows that. So he kind of passes on that, then goes to what should be the vacated space in the back of the end zone here. And Travis Hunter just breaks so quickly here that he covers two routes at once. This is it. He makes it look way easier and simpler than this actually is. This is just incredible, and he makes it look like it's just another ordinary play, and it is not. To have the wherewithal to then break on that ball, the ball is released here, and he was just chasing to the sideline Tet McMillan, and then is able to change direction and cut off the crosser in the back of the end zone. That is just he won the Heisman for a reason. So I think we have the other angle here from the end zone just to show, again, you're just going to see a flash across the screen. That's Travis Hunter, literal lightning when it comes to changing direction and closing on the football. So he's consensus number one in a lot of boards for a reason. So we're going to see him now again in tight coverage. And I think you're going to sense the theme and the trend here, which we always say is what we try to focus on is the trends here, right? Again, press coverage, go route, and it's just no space to work with again. So McMillan has the size. You're going to give him a chance in one-on-one coverage down the field. And there's no separation. If you recall last week's episode, when we were talking about Will Johnson against Marvin Harrison Jr. on a slot fade, for example, Will Johnson ended up having tight coverage there, and we considered the coverage to be pretty good. And there was legitimately a yard and a half or so of separation at, right around here. And you just see the difference. Yes, it's a slot fade versus a go on the outside, but there's just nothing here. He's just on him. There's nowhere to put the football other than just over the top and see if McMillan can just, use body positioning to make a play on the ball, because there is no separation or true window for the quarterback to work with. That said, I just mentioned Tet McMillan perhaps using his body to get position, and that's what happens here. And I think this is one thing we're going to see with Travis Hunter throughout this game is the one thing that can get him into a bit of trouble is big physical receivers. So right here, he plays this well, a good slide. It's a fade. He's going to get chest to chest here, or kind of chest to chest. He's giving up a little bit of ground here towards the back of the end zone, but looking up for the ball, this is still good position. This takes a very good throw, but McMillan is just so strong that Hunter can't get around him to make a play on the ball. And then you're going to see from the other angle, it's just a phenomenal catch overall. But this isn't necessarily a coverage negative for Hunter. This is how you have to beat a player like this, is with sheer size and strength. Lined up here, now we're going to have a two-man game here. And again, no separation there, but at the top of the route, you'll notice there is a tug right here, and it's because of the size and strength of McMillan. So we noticed Benjamin Morrison last week have some trouble at the top against Marvin Harrison Jr. because of his size and strength at the top of a route like this. At the break point, he's not necessarily slow to react. I mean, he's basically mirroring him, dropping his hips when the receiver drops his hips to decelerate. But McMillan is just so strong that Hunter needs to grab in order to maintain good posture and positioning to try to make a play on the ball. And you'll notice here he's upset because he got caught. But This is pretty much the only thing you'll notice as far as how you can beat Travis Hunter is with strength and positioning here. So off coverage, I don't know why you would ever do this, why you would ever try him in space one-on-one. He's too athletic to miss tackles. But yeah, just because, he might, get out muscled for a ball in the air from someone like a Tet McMillan, who many consider a Mike Evans clone, does not mean this is not a physical player. He is a very physical player, can come downhill and make the tackle, and he's not at all a liability in that regard. Press again, he's right there. There's no separation, just a simple crosser over the middle, but body positioning. You just can't get around a player as big and strong as Tet McMillan. So how often is he going to see a body type like this in the NFL? Probably a little more often than you think. But again, just notice he's right there. But it's just the receivers basically can take a picture of the football because of his body positioning against Hunter. And that's the one area where Hunter is struggling. So I'm going to talk about just his headiness, if that's a word, as a player here. So you're going to notice the offense brings the receiver in motion here. They diagnose it's man based on the defender coming over here. So you think as a coordinator, you think you're the smartest guy in the room. You're going to run a slant from the outside to draw in Hunter, and then just kind of have a traffic jam there between Hunter, the safety, and the receiver, and allow the running back to run up the sideline. Hunter recognizes that right away, and again, makes a tackle, squares up, breaks down. You're not going anywhere. So you're not going to outsmart him either. This is a smart football player. It's not all the physical attributes with Travis Hunter. He has a feel for the game. He knows what's going on. This is film study. And again, great breakdown. You're not getting around him. Easy peasy. Now, the other play from the Baylor game that I want to point out, these last two clips are from Baylor 2024. Now that we got an idea of him in coverage, I could have spent just an hour here just going through every play of him literally not being targeted in this game because he gives up no separation. But again, just to speak to the physicality of Travis Hunter, this is overtime. I think it's first and goal, but in either event, it's goal to go in overtime. Colorado scored up 7 here at the goal line, and he's going to put his head on the football and make a play to win the game. He's not catching. This is probably his 95th snap of the game because he's played both ways. And here he is in the box, going to square up the running back, jar the football loose, and go ahead and win the game. So Travis Hunter can literally do it all. He does not give up separation in routes. He can turn and run. He closes on the football. He accelerates phenomenally. He's a tough physical tackler. The only thing is sometimes when someone's just bigger than you, you can't always win that body positioning battle. And that's really the only time you'll see Travis Hunter really give up ground and get beat. You saw it also against Alec Iomaner against Stanford. But again, that was also him playing like 108 snaps in a game. And so part of that was just wearing down. But I think Hunter really has it all, with the exception of, he'll give up some ground on some of the biggest receivers that he'll see.
Great summary. We're going to save my response. We're going to save that for the end so that the audio only people can hear some of what we have to say. But Ray, do you know, like on Christmas when, you before the holidays, you and your family say, hey, we're going to have like a $15 limit or $50 limit, whatever it is. And then there's that one a-hole that like ends up spending like $100 and makes everybody else look bad. You're kind of the a-hole today, buddy. Because like, I'm pretty sure we said there's like a 4-play, 5-play max.
It's Travis
that we were
Hunter
going to do per player, and you just went like 15 minutes on one player. So I'm going to look like an a-hole when I have like 4 or 5 plays for these guys. But it's all right, Ray. It's all right.
Here's the thing, Chris. It's an allowance because he plays both ways.
But you only did one side of the film. You know what I mean? So it's problematic. Yeah. But that's okay. We're going to talk about Trey Amos next. We both have some film on him. So you'll hear some of what we both have to say. 23 years old, Trey Amos will be on draft day. He's 6'1", 190 pounds. He spent 3 years at Lafayette, 1 year at Alabama, and then this last year at Ole Miss. He's played over 2,400 career snaps on defense, 4 career interceptions, 25 career pass breakups. So this is a more seasoned veteran on the defensive side of the ball. Ray, I think you were sharing this in the incorrect way.
I'm helping it. I got it. I got you. Just keep going.
So you're on it. So again, this is a guy that had plenty of experience. Again, he jumped around college. So like you kind of trust that this guy should have an easier transition into the NFL. Also on top of that, right? 6'1", 190. It's similar size to what Travis Hunter is listed at, only 5-pound difference. But for some reason in the pads, I'm thinking Travis Hunter might end up being a little lighter than that, and Amos may end up being a little bit bigger than that. That's just an observation I had. We'll talk about that stuff at the end. How are you doing, Ray?
I got you.
Okay, you're going. You're still going.
We're good to go.
Awesome. I think it's you to begin, it looks like here.
Yeah, so the profile of Trey Amos, I think he's a big physical linear player who is going to really frustrate a lot of receivers in the NFL. He's going to get on your nerves with the way he plays, and I love that. He's got the length, he's got the physicality, he's tough, and I think here, if I have the play correctly, this is an example of that. So press coverage at the bottom of your screen here. And again, just kind of patient here, stay square until the receiver declares towards the sideline, rides him out, physical, and you're going to notice the receiver frustrated, kind of just gets all out of whack, throws his body behind in order to try to push off Amos, steps out of bounds, makes a catch. That's a flag for illegal touching. But he just got out of his comfort zone because Amos is so physical and tough. To disengage from him, he just had to basically abandon all of his technique to try to get some separation there. And that's a free 5 yards for the defense because of the penalty assessed by illegal touching from the receiver. And this is, again, going to be a theme here. So physicality, again, at the line of scrimmage, going to duck under. And it's not just in press, but actually against the run. He'll stick his nose in there and make a tackle as well. We've gone over some corners where that's not always the case, but with Trey Amos, it certainly is. He's not afraid to mix it up by any means or by any stretch. I think this one might be you. Are we just going to hand it off here, or how do you want me to just keep going?
Is this one me? That's okay. I mean, go ahead and hit play. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah, just
he's in press again. He's lined up tight, but he bails out into a deep kind of shuffle, going into as if he's in a quarter scheme. But I thought this was a really good play because it just shows how fundamentally sound his technique is. If you could maybe start it over here, right? So he immediately bails out into that quarters technique. He knows that he has the sideline behind him, so he's playing that. He quickly flips, and he never loses sight of the receiver. The receiver could have dipped under and potentially made something happen, but Amos had a beautiful, beautiful eye on him, does that quick flip, and is easily there, right? Matching kind of hip to hip. Is it perfect? Is he in perfect position like Hunter was? Maybe not. But it's still like a very, very good play for, again, somebody that I think is a significantly bigger size than what Travis Hunter probably really is. So there is going to be that differentiator. Like we need to, I think it's probably more like 10 to 15 pounds than 5, right? So there is a difference in the size. Great play by Amos.
We got press again here. And here's one where I think you started to touch on it, but it's the differentiator between him and maybe, yes, Travis Hunter, but other top flight guys. So again, decent at the line of scrimmage, disrupts the route a bit in press. It kind of misses with his inside hand there. It's not the best jab there, but he's disrupting the route, kind of routing the receiver to the sideline. That's great. When it's time to break down, he does not mirror as well as obviously someone like a Travis Hunter. And you'll notice the separation here. That's 2 yards as the receiver's coming back to the football. So ball doesn't go there. It's not a catch given up or anything. So the metrics won't show it, but there's separation given up here at the top of the route. And I think when it comes to that stop start, you'll notice compared to some of the smaller and quicker guys, but also the elite of the elite at this position. That's probably the missing piece when it comes to Amos is that top of route stop start agility there to really kind of close the gap and stay in the hip pocket of receivers. It's just hard for a big player to decelerate like that at that level consistently over and over again. So I think theme here again, ball goes elsewhere, but
yeah, and he's in the boundary on that play, right? So he's in the boundary. He's kind of all alone on an island. And I think he does a really good job disrupting the route at the beginning. So like while maybe there was separation, that receiver might be 2 or 3 yards off of his point, like his landing spot, right? Like he might not be in the position he thought he was. Quarterback goes the other way anyway, so we won't really know that. And but to me, I think Amos at the beginning of this route does a really nice job kind of throwing the receiver off.
Yeah, like I said, he's going to frustrate you, even if you win. Like, let's say that's a win, right? Let's say the landmark was beyond the sticks. He kind of plays it right. He was frustrated. He was disrupted. That's not an easy win. So again, I think this is you top of the screen here. If you want to take it, this is pretty textbook here, but I'll let you have at it. This is your boy.
Yeah, no, one of the things I noticed with him, and it's a common trend for me, is just not a lack of no panic. There's no panic in this guy's game, right? Like it's super smooth. He's backpedaling with a bigger tight end, right? Again, this is why I think he's really bigger than what he was listed at. He's running down the field with a tight end here, and the tight end is trying to muscle him, right? He's trying to box him out. But Amos just like has zero panic. And at the point of attack, he does a great job just going up and disrupting this play. There is another angle of this we can watch. Like watch right here. There's no panic, right? He's hands on. He's muscling. The tight end goes up. He's a bigger dude. And Amos puts his hands through and just makes a play, right? I think Amos could do a better job at times playing the ball as a receiver would. But in this situation, you're just trying not to let up a touchdown. Go poke that ball out, right? And he does a great job of that. Pretty sure the tight end is Jason Taylor's son. So, good genes in that kid.
Down at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I think next up here is me, and this is I guess I'm bad cop. I don't know, but what we're gonna see here again is just kind of the thing with Trey Amos, that again just highlighting the change of direction. Yeah, first glance you're gonna be like, okay, well the receiver cut like 4 times. I mean, what do you expect? Quarterback rolls out as an extended play. I get all that. It's not a receiver. It is Mason Taylor, who we just sang praises on, but it is still a tight end. But in any event, just the separation that was given up initially, then the cut. He's rounded. He's out of sorts. He's not in phase. He's off balance, slips and falls. We're going to see the other angle here. Yeah, it's a tough play, but you can't. To me, you basically what I'm highlighting here is not that this shows that there's necessarily a weakness in his game as far as Trey Amos can't cover, at a very high level. But what I'm saying here is the phase chase the rabbit. They're the best corners in the league, in the NFL, can chase the rabbit. You can put them to the field side and you have coverage drawn or rolled to the other side of the field, and they can chase the rabbit. If it's a crosser across the field, a drag across the field, a dig route going over the middle, they will be there and can close. I don't see the ability for Amos to close here, and that's what gets him out of sorts originally. And then after the second cut, he's just all out of whack there because he can't initially stay in the hip pocket when it's an in-breaker and he can, carry someone across the field. That's not his game, and it gets him into trouble. So yes, this is an unfair play for any cornerback to cover someone across the middle of the field, stop, start, then they break to the outside, and then have to stop again, decelerate to get the ball, and then you basically have to make another cut yet again at the catch point. I get all that. It's this. The point isn't that he gave up a catch. The point is that this is someone who can't chase the rabbit, so to speak, as a field corner. And I think that's what, again, separates him from the upper echelon of the position, which is very rare in its own right. In the NFL, there's typically only 6 or 7 guys at a time that you can truly consider those types of players. I think Amos, this is just an example of shows why he's not necessarily that profile of player. And then what you're going to notice again, another example of that.
Go back. I got to give my 2 cents. I got to give my 2 cents.
I know you're going to stick up for him. So go ahead.
So I'm good. I'm going to stick up for him.
Why don't you tell me why Trey Amos is just fine here?
So not that he's just fine, but there is a difference in playing a receiver to a big body tight end. And this is all blurry on my end. I hope it's fine for everybody else. But
let's go to the other angle if not, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're playing a tight end, sometimes you don't want to be hip to hip with that player because he can outmuscle you, right? So you kind of just try to bait it, right? Like right here, I think he knows that there's separation, but he trusts his athleticism that if the quarterback tries to make the throw there, that he can use athleticism instead of size to undercut the route and make a play. It kind of burns him afterward, right? Because this play continues where separation gets created. Also, he doesn't give up. After the third cut, this dude is still chasing him. He's still going after it. And I like to see that effort. I don't think this is somebody that can't guard one-on-one. I think he can. I think he was being strategic in the way that he did it. So I will disagree with you, but let's see. Let's see if you can show me it's a trend.
So here we go. Now he's outside leverage over the top here, but again, this is again Taylor. This is still a tight end here. And he's just going to be a simple drag across the field. There's a little traffic, but it doesn't really disrupt him. And I think the point here is he just never actually closes the gap. If you're a corner, yes, the crosser across the field is the hardest route, in my opinion, to really defend. But at some point, especially against a tight end, you have to close that gap, and he never does. And so the quarterback is able to throw from the opposite hash. Garrett Nussmeier is able to throw from the opposite hash across the field past the third window here of that crosser. And Amos can't make a play on the ball. He's not in position to break that up. From the opposite hash, I expect a corner to be able to make that play against a tight end because that's essentially a quarterback throwing across his body, and the angles there should be in your favor. And he just doesn't really have that make-up speed to really just close the gap there. You'll notice it here. There's the gap, and the gap stays the entire time. There's at no point does this gap get any smaller. Does the window close? It is as it always is from the start of the play, and it's another 9-yard or so pickup. I want to see a corner close the gap at that point. If I'm going to consider them a first round type of player, I need to see that window closed at some point in that route, and it just never did.
So I agree with you on that one. I don't think it's because of that he can't cover one-on-one. I think it's that he was trying to trust himself to be able to undercut it, but maybe overestimated his athleticism versus the really good tight end's athleticism and wasn't able to make the play that he thought he was. I also think you're right. I think there was a little bit of, he looked a little scared running through that traffic, right? Like as if he was expecting a pick to happen at some point. And it did make him kind of lag behind. You don't want to see that. Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think there's a speed element maybe missing from his game that will keep him from being in that upper echelon. I was saving some of those treats for the summary conversation at the end.
Yeah, I play my hand early, but top of the screen again. So either man or deep third here, but you got a skinny post here, and he's with him until he's not. And I think this goes to that speed discussion again, to where he's with him, and then as the ball is in the air, the receiver can close on the ball, but by the catch point, now Amos is behind the receiver. He gets that late separation on him, and that's a worry because a better throw from Nussmeier here, and that's 6. He gets it there before the safety can arrive and really disrupt the play, and he overthrows it, but if it's not overthrown, there's enough separation there for that to be 6. And I think we have the other angler. I think this is the last play also where, again, it's just Amos is physical. He's with him until he's not. That's NFL open. That's an NFL touchdown every single week. I need to see you close. So I like a lot of Amos's game here, but I think the speed element is really what calls a few things into question that prevents him from getting into that top tier. Travis Hunter just decided to show himself again and make his way back onto the pod. But
he figured you had 10, 15 more plays lined up for him.
I probably do. I'll be here all night.
Dude, there's nothing worse as a cornerback than seeing a ball go in the air and being like, that's not a catchable ball. And not that you give up, because you never give up, right? But that you don't expect to be able to try to make a play on, but the receiver is just a different level athlete than you are. And it ends up being either caught or way closer of a play than you ever would have expected. And you look like a jerk, because that happens too. And that's kind of what that play, it looks like he's like, this isn't a catchable ball and I have a safety over top, so I'm going to be okay about it. And it's like, no, buddy, that's not okay. You need to be on that. All right. Next guy we're talking about here is Jahdae Barron. Did I say that right? Jahdae?
It's good for you. That's just fine.
It's pretty darn good, right? 23 years old. He will be on draft day. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. I suspect he's smaller than that. He's a 5-year player at Texas, 2,600 plus career defensive snaps. That is a lot in what you want, right? 8 career interceptions, 5 of them in 2024, 17 career pass breakups, 9 of them in 2024. Let's jump into him. This is a player I think you and I kind of talked about a little bit offline and very briefly because we do everything live here, but I think we have pretty different opinions on this guy.
Yeah, and can't wait to talk about it. And so one thing I'll mention, that you heard it before, I think towards the end of the Travis Hunter segment there, where I could have went an hour kind of showing the same thing over and over again. I could have went about 30 minutes showing the same thing over and over again with Jahdae Barron. And obviously for time purposes and whatnot, we did not do that. But one thing I think sticks out to me for the University of Texas, especially on defense, is they find what their players do well individually, and they let them have at it. We've noticed that on the defensive line with Byron Murphy and your boy Devondre Sweat and some of the techniques that they use. And when it comes to Jahdae Barron, Texas lines him up all over the place, which tells me they trust this guy. He's a veteran. He can get the defense lined up. He's always going to be sound in his assignments and not many mental errors and so forth, which I think is important. But it's accentuated by him lining up here, sort of in the middle of the field, kind of in a slot big nickel area here. And so nothing terribly revolutionary about this play, but just him coming from the opposite hash to be in on the tackle to the sideline here. So again, lines up at sort of big nickel here from the opposite hash. When the ball is released, he's going to chase down and help make a play on the ball. Just the hustle, right? He's around the ball, and that's going to be a theme here. I'm going to keep going. Top of the screen here at corner. I love this part of his game in particular. This is what I could have watched this all night. A lot of times, especially with the first 2 corners we've watched, we admire the tactician that they are in press coverage. Catch technique in man is basically another way of disrupting a receiver, just not necessarily at the line of scrimmage. And I think for a smaller player, compared to other names in this draft, Jahdae Barron is absolutely phenomenal at the catch, at just playing catch technique here. So off man, he's at the sticks. You're going to notice he kind of stays square, squats down, braces to absorb the contact at the sticks, and disrupts the receiver, kind of turns with him, rides him to the sideline, and there's no play for the quarterback at that point. This is so hard to do. I don't like playing this technique because it is so hard to really absorb that contact and just be able to smoothly transition into the receiver and run the route with them. To me, this is extremely difficult. And a consistent thing I see on tape with Barron is he's effective in this catch technique at disrupting the route during the play. And so another way to really frustrate receivers here. So I love his catch technique in off man, which to me is incredibly difficult to replicate. We're going to have off man again here. And I like the way he drives on the football. Granted, again, he's one of the smaller corners at the top of the class for this year. So you'd expect him to be a bit better at this as far as changing direction and driving on the ball than some others. But he does a good job of that here. Simple slant. But again, stays square. And when the receiver breaks, he breaks. Ho-hum, standard. But I like these angles because you could just kind of see the corner, then just flash across the screen. Yeah, nowhere to throw the ball again. Closes the gap quickly. This is a player that closes the gap on those in breakers. So again, top of the screen, but to the sideline here. So again, he's going to protect some outside leverage. Gives up a catch, but again, he's driving on the ball, 0 yak. As soon as that ball is released, he's driving. So 4-yard gain here. But again, drives on the football, makes a sure tackle. I like that part of his game. You're going to give up some catches just based on alignment, and that is the weakness of that defense. I don't know about you, Chris, but as I was watching this, I had PTSD from our high school days talking about the weakness in this sort of 3D defense in particular being the flats and not getting there in time, and our backers just really just getting it from our coach whenever that would happen. But Barron just kind of erases that. No yak, 4-yard gain. You could live with that, and you live to fight another down. Again, the catch technique here, and then the pick. I think we all know this play. This is when like the fans threw bottles on the field. It was a terrible defensive pass interference flag that I think got overturned during like the 5-minute just chaos that ensued after this. But again, staying square, absorbing the contact, balls out, he sees it, gets to the outside shoulder of the receiver, and he's the one to make a play on the ball. You'll notice there's no grab or tug. It's just absorbing the contact, staying square, and then making a break on the ball. There's no tugging of jersey, no fistful, nothing. He absorbs the contact and then goes downhill to make a play on the ball, and then you have the return there. That is the only
thing, Ray, about these plays, because I love it, right? Like, this is amazing technique and it's fantastic. But at the NFL level, that is a penalty, right? Because you can't make contact 10 yards down the field. And if you're the one engaging, that's a problem. And on both of the plays you showed, it's probably a penalty, unfortunately. In college, it's great, but you need to be able to change. So, like, I love that you're showing it because it shows that he has an understanding for technique. He has next level speed, right? To be able to match people's hips, going from basically still footed to running a route with somebody is incredibly, incredibly hard. But he's going to have to play a different style on plays like this because that is not going to fly at the NFL level.
This one won't. I think he could have gotten away with the other one because
maybe,
yes, he initiates in a sense the contact, but he absorbs it more than anything else. And I think there's a way he can get away with that at points. But what translates is that ability to, like you said, go from flat-footed and really beyond flat-footed because you're absorbing contact to then making a break. That is so hard to do. That is so damn hard to do. And so this translates in schemes that'll probably be easier to execute from the perspective of a defensive back. And so here, I don't even remember what this play is. Oh yeah, I think this just goes to show you, okay, he's not quite Trey Amos or maybe Travis Hunter when it comes to, sort of breaking down and filling in the run game. I'll be fair. Yeah, not my favorite play, but you got to show this too, right? This is the complete picture. He does tackle like a cornerback at times. Now, I kept this play in. I know you're like, too many damn plays, Ray. I wanted to get your perspective on this play because surface level, I'm going to let it run and then we'll talk about it a bit, right? So
where is he here? Sorry, run it back. Yep. I didn't see the little arrow.
So he's in off coverage right here towards the bottom of your screen here behind the Twins. So we're behind the stack. So, okay, interception. Yeah. We don't really need to see it from this angle to talk about it. I think at a surface level, someone would look at this and say, he didn't really make a play on the ball, right? Ball was kind of outside the receiver's frame, bobbled up in the air, and, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Yes, that's not what I'm scouting for here. I want to get your take because to me, based on that initial step here to the outside, I'm thinking this is a banjo, and basically he gets hung out to dry by the inside corner here. It's a good job by 16, the receiver, if that's the case, to really just drive him upfield and just get in the way. But I think he's anticipating if there's an outbreaker here, he takes that and they banjo this. That's obviously out the window, and he recognizes that as the ball is thrown and at least gets in position to, if something happens, make a play. And I think that's what happens here based on those initial steps. But I wanted to get your take because otherwise people would just scream at you like, oh, this isn't a highlight. He didn't do anything but catch a tip pass. That he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But
one of my favorite things
in particular.
One of my favorite things about him and his film was his leadership and his communication pre-snap. That's kind of linebacker-esque. A lot of times cornerbacks aren't asked to do that. He's phenomenal at it, right? He's a 5-year player on the same team. Like, that's awesome. I think you're right, but if that is the case, you would think that if somebody like him would have communicated and that wouldn't have happened, right? Because this is somebody that communicates really well. So I'm not really sure. I do think if it is man coverage, he kind of gets beat. He kind of gets picked out of the play a little bit and he gets beat and he just got lucky. You're right. He gets lucky, rather be lucky than good. Don't think this play is a credit to him at all, really, right? But I agree with what you're saying where, if it was a banjo, the other guy did not do the right job at all and definitely messed this up for him. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to make that determination. And yeah, you'd rather be lucky than good.
Yeah. And also, the more I watch it, 16 is just straight. That's not a route 16. That should be
That's a pick.
if that is the case.
100%.
That should 100%. Be a
100%.
penalty. Look at his arms. Look at his arms here. He's freaking. I mean, come on. That's a freaking
shoulder down, driving, sled push. Yeah, it's crazy.
So even
all right, we're talking about my guy now, right?
The penalty. You name it, I'll pull it up.
Darien Porter. I want to go to Darien Porter, Iowa State. Okay. Darien Porter from Iowa State. Let me get my little notes here. 24 years old. This is an older prospect. Okay. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He spent 4 years at Iowa State and only played 694 defensive snaps. Why? Because this kid was recruited as a wide receiver. And until 2022, he only played wide receiver. So this is a guy that was converted. This year was really his only year as like a true starter on defense because he just never really played the position before, especially at the D1 college level. But there was a lot that I liked about this kid. Again, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's a bigger guy. But it's almost overly obvious when somebody is the best player on the field for a team that might not have a lot of or a significant amount of like NFL draft talent, right? And then you see the one that is, and you're like, oh, shoot, that kid's special. And that's kind of the vibe I got, right? And it didn't happen every game. There were games where I watched and I didn't get that. But this is against Iowa, who is your rival. And this is a must-win game. And it means everything to the school, right? And it was the best game that this kid had in his entire career. And a few of these plays were just plays that not necessarily show the technique or his ability in backpedal, but it just shows the heart that this kid has. And again, like when you convert a player from receiver to corner and he's still learning the position, how can he make an impact? That's what we're going to see. Go ahead and hit play. We'll talk these through. So here he's lined up in what looks like off man. Guy goes in motion. They kind of go to a kind of like a banjo, like you said before, but run it back, right? You'll see at the beginning of this route, he does a great job just getting contact, right? Don't let people have free releases. That's something that not enough players play with, but he doesn't let this guy have a free release. They banjo. He knocks him, right? He's in this kid's mouth. He knocks him off his route and kind of messes it all up. But he doesn't give up, right? He sees that it's now a pass. He drops back, gets under that route, drops back into the window, and the quarterback has no idea this is going to happen. This guy just messed up the route, and now he's jumping the play and making an interception. It's just perfect technique, right? Like make contact at the line, get to your spot, notice that it's not a run play, drop back, and make a play on the football. Like to me, this is textbook. It's one of my favorite plays I've watched in the recruiting process for a cornerback. Great play, Darien Porter. Next play here, he's lined up tight, and go ahead and hit play. He's lined up tight, a little bit of motion here. Recognizes that it's a run pretty quick. Go back for me. Don't run it. Keep going. Okay, right here, he's engaged. He notices it's a run play, right? Look where he is. Go ahead and hit play. Look where they are right now, right? Running back is breaking and is gone. He's breaking. He has the sideline. All he sees is green. This is a corner coming from across the field and running down what people are talking about to be a first-round caliber running back. And he hawks him to save the play and save the touchdown. Again, it's not showing technique in backpedal. It's not showing, his ball play skills. It's showing effort and what this kid can do as an athlete and the effort that he's going to bring play after play. Love that play from him. Next play here, he's lined up goal line, right? And he's lined up with a wide receiver. He's in a tight press coverage. And it shows a little bit of that, right? A little bit more of what we want to see as a cornerback. He matches this really well. He's engaged. He's not letting the receiver get by him. Receiver doesn't have an opportunity here as well to make a play. Remember, this is a 6'4" guy. He's long. It's really hard to make a play inside or make cuts or get open. And he goes up and makes a play on the football. Again, this is a converted receiver. I think he has kind of like ball in the air ability that is a little bit rare and really nice to see. Just makes a good play on the football. He can do that too.
Only Iowa would throw a fade at a 6'4" corner. I don't get it.
I agree. Absolutely absurd. This play was another effort play for me, but shows something in the run game that I don't think a lot of players have, right? So go ahead and hit play. You're going to see him essentially get crunched, absolutely crunched by the tight end. But what he does and what he does well, it's coming in a little blurry for me, Ray. I hope that's not the case for everybody else again. But what I want to point out here is look at what he does, right? While he does get demolished by the tight end, he doesn't cave, right? Like he doesn't go down. He doesn't get blown backwards. He holds his ground, and the running back does have to take a more narrow route now. He lost the outside lane. And for a cornerback to do that against a tight end is pretty special. So again, it's just that effort that I'd like to see. And I saw repeatedly in this game for him.
I don't care what praises you heap on me. If you show a play of me just getting thrown on my back, there's nothing you can say that make me feel good about it. so I get it, but unless it like won the Super Bowl or something,
But that's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is. And this is Iowa State is up at this point. This is the final play of the game, and a guy that has been playing his heart out all game. Sorry, yep, this play here. Guy that's been playing his heart out all game is playing deep fourth in the end zone, and he makes a game-winning interception to end the game, right? Like for Iowa State to beat Iowa shouldn't have happened, right? Iowa State doesn't have the talent to go against Iowa. He goes and makes another play to end the game, slides, right? He's not showing off. That's not what he's here to do. Slides and it ends the game. And ends the game with 2 interceptions, right? Again, I didn't go into this guy having the best technique. He only played 694 snaps. He's not there yet, right? We'll talk about that at the end. But again, this is just a high effort player that in a really important game for his team had about 4 or 5 plays that I'd say were game-changing plays.
Yeah, 6'4" corner is pretty rare, but you showed him getting crunched. You showed him basically fielding a punt. that was interesting. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it at the end. Shavon Revel, I think, is the last one we got here.
Yep. Give me one. I mean, yeah. Shout him out. I'm getting it ready.
Yep. Let me get my notes. Shavon Revel, 23 years old on draft day, 6'3", 193, another long corner. Played 3 years at East Carolina, 880 snaps, 3 career interceptions, 12 career pass breakups. That's what I got. Let's turn it on.
All right. So say that size again.
6'3", 193 pounds.
193. All right. So top of the screen here, we're just going to get right into it and discuss them all after. So top of the screen, this is App State 2024 before his injury. I love this play, and we're going to break it down from the very beginning, but you'll see here great press coverage, kind of walls him off to the sideline here. Receiver takes like 6 steps out of bounds. It's not the first time we've seen that this film session, a cornerback just driving a receiver all the way out of bounds. But what I like here is take a look at the wide receiver's initial release. Look at his back foot. And so as we run it here, this is a speed release. He kind of pushes off that back foot to gain some momentum. And then basically, as it said, speed release up the sideline, tries to hesitate a bit there. And what I like about that is Revel, despite being 6'3", 193, right, kind of lined up in press, he doesn't shoot hands. When you see a speed release, you don't want to shoot hands, because if you miss on a speed release, you're in some trouble here. He recognizes what this is, stays square, good slide. And then after the hezi, when the receiver is now running up the sideline, that's when he will go ahead, kind of close the space there, get chest to chest, and now he uses his size to ride him out of bounds. But he doesn't shoot with his hands, doesn't miss with his hands. I love that. I love the recognition here right at the start. This is like the little chess match that rarely gets picked up on TV. But again, speed release here to the outside, little hesitation, stays square, doesn't bite on either of them, then goes ahead, chest to chest. Squeeze the space. Congratulations, you caught a pass like 3 yards out of bounds. Another penalty on the offense. Love it. So again here, lined up in press. And what we're going to see here, now he does shoot his hands. And similar to what we saw earlier, no separation on this route, after they run downfield here. So now he does shoot hands, stays square. Okay, now he's going to go ahead and turn. There's no space here. With Will Johnson, there was space. Granted, this is not Marvin Harrison Jr. that we're going up against here, but no space. He is just completely mirroring the receiver. Ball goes to the other side of the field. For 6'3" to be able to turn like this and stay with the receiver, absolutely love it. And that's pretty rare. off man here, and this is what started to separate Revel from other names at the position for me. So little flea flicker here. Crossing route, he is going to close the space. Granted, it's not a full speed, just sort of end of game thing, but he's not fooled by the action here and is able to go ahead and make a jump on the ball, close on the route, and then just be an athlete and go ahead and hold it like a loaf of bread and score a touchdown. We do have the other angle of this here. Nice, beautiful. So you're going to see it from this angle, right? Flea flicker. Expect the backers to get sucked in, and then this kind of receiver on the over route to be breaking free, open field. That's not the case here. You see the space closed by Revel right here. Still a couple yard separation here, but he has a beat on this the whole way, and now he's going to close the space, make a play on the ball, and then the rest is history, just him being an athlete. So to be able to carry routes across the field, especially at 6'3", that's what we like to see. I don't even remember what this play is or why I have it in here, but we're going to see it. I think it's just another example of, again, press coverage here. Seems like he's actually protecting some outside leverage here just based on his stance at first step. But again, no separation, no space, nowhere to throw the ball here. It's not a flag. There's no flag thrown. It's just extremely tight coverage. There's nowhere to place that football. I think, just the other angle here again to show it. There's nowhere to go with the ball here. There's none. 6'3" can go over the top there, make a play on the ball if it's within the window or radius of the receiver, and it just wasn't. And we're going to finish it up here against Michigan 2023. Again, just to show, here he is in the box, bottom of your screen, number 28 here. He's just going to make a fill here near the goal line, one-on-one with the running back, or not one-on-one, but goes ahead here, doesn't allow the back to fall forward. He's pretty physical when it comes to the line of scrimmage as well. You'd hope so at 6'3", nearly 200 pounds. And then one thing I don't necessarily like, again, it's not the result of the play. We just jump back to App State because that's just how I watch film. Like I'm just kid in a candy store. I can't, stay still. Back to App State. Off man here, inside leverage. Yes, again, due to alignment, the result might be what the result is, but I don't really like his pedal. And he actually breaks from it pretty well. But I noticed pretty often when he is off, whether in off man or in zone and not being threatened right away, he gets a little high, a little upright, not as much bend as I would like, which kind of is to be expected from a 6'3" corner. And it's not the worst thing in the world. It actually reminds me a bit of Quinyon Mitchell last year. His off man stuff and pedal wasn't the best as far as breaking out of it. And he obviously got a lot better at it, but I think more than anything else, he's fantastic when pressed up close to receivers. But you'll see this with Revel, 6'3". He does pedal like a 6'3" player, and so you probably don't want him in off man like Jahdae Barron too often because his pedal's not the best, and sometimes it can hinder him. But again, I think the result of this play is more so as a result of alignment than anything else. There's nobody covering the flat here or threatening underneath. And so he's kind of left out to dry based on alignment. But the pedal is something that concerns me and is somewhat to be expected of a 6'3" player.
All right. Should we jump into it? If you want to, let's change the view here. Let's go back into just me and you now. And let's welcome in audio-only listeners. Thank you for tuning in to the All-22 NFL podcast. But Ray and I just reviewed some film on the top cornerbacks that we think are in this draft. If you want to go to YouTube, check that out. But Ray, let's get into it now, right? I let you talk a lot, but I'm ready to freaking go, man. But let's start off with the obvious, which really is Travis Hunter, right? You were talking about Travis Hunter film. You broke it down. Again, 6'1", 185 pounds, 2 years at Colorado, one at Jackson State, 1,800 career defensive snaps, 900 receptions, 20 pass breakups. For me, the thing with Travis Hunter that stood out to me most is that the game is so easy for you when it's slowed down because you're just so much better of an athlete than everybody else, right? There are so many plays that you showed me just now, right? That he's able to do what he's doing because he's just at double speed, right? Like if you're watching us on YouTube in double speed, we're talking really quick. That's how Travis Hunter plays football, like normally. And it allows him to do things that most of the other guys aren't able to do. Also, like he's a receiver. He has the best defensive backhands I think I've watched, right? Like, and that's Diggs is really special in that regard. There's a couple guys in the NFL that have great hands at the cornerback position. None of them are Travis Hunter. None of them are that level of good. The play you showed in the back of the end zone where he's guarding one receiver and then breaks over to the other and almost intercepts the ball. Like, no DBs right now in the NFL, no corners in the NFL right now will make that play besides Travis Hunter. And that's something that really separates him for me. If you want to talk about positives before I say the couple negative things, we can do that.
Yeah. So we'll see what the actual measurement is. I don't think he's under 6 foot by any stretch. Maybe he is 6 foot, not 6'1", maybe 6 foot 180. Who knows? He probably lost a lot of weight during the season playing both ways. So maybe he did start at 185 and ended at like 177. Who knows? That's actually not that much weight. I lost that like 2 practices. But in any event, he plays. I mean, the way he changes direction at cornerback, sometimes you have to compensate for something, right? If you're a small player, sometimes you have to spend a little more time at the top of a route on the outside shoulder of a receiver because you just, you don't have that body positioning, that strength to really kind of get into a wrestling match with a receiver, right? If you're a bigger corner, you might not have the fleetest of foot. Maybe you kind of cheat a little bit to your leverage to really protect that leverage if it's inside or outside. Travis Hunter doesn't have to cheat at all in any facet of the game at all. He can line up and press. He can switch. He can change direction. He can bait. He's a baiter at the cornerback position. He can bait a quarterback into thinking there's a window and there's absolutely not, and he closes on it in a distance. So he really does check every single box, and that's why when you dive into this player, the only times you can really see him get beat is by a really big receiver where it's literally just a physics problem where he just can't get around the receiver to make a play on the ball because he can get to the spot, but maybe can't get around a receiver because of just, sheer frame. That's really the only time you'll see him get beat outside of his 115th snap against Stanford and Alec Iomaner getting beat downfield in 2023. That's literally it because he could do everything else.
One other positive that we both missed is his ability to hide his coverage, right? And again, it's because he can play twice as fast as everybody else that he can hide it twice as long as anybody else would. So there are times where he's pretending to be doing something else and will make a play on the ball that there's no reason for him to be making, right? And it's because of that ability to hide coverage. But I agree with you. I think the physical part of his game is a bit of a concern to me. I'm not afraid of putting him against any receiver in the NFL today. I don't care if it's AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, because there are going to be times where they're going to be able to outmuscle him and outplay him because of that size. But I'm okay giving up those 1 or 2 instances a game for the other amazing results that he's going to be able to play. And again, if he's only really playing cornerback, or at least primarily, I do agree. He's going to gain 5, 10, 15 pounds over the next 2 or 3 years. And he's going to be able to play a more rocked up style corner. And that's really what I would like to see for him. I do worry that the slim frame is going to create injury concerns if he doesn't get rocked up. There was a play where he helps out on a tackle and it's kind of friendly fire where the safety or linebacker comes in and hits Hunter instead of the person they're trying to tackle, and he hits him in the chest and Hunter goes down. And there's a part of me that's like, in the NFL, when this happens to a guy that's built like this, it's going to be bad, right? And I was, we talked about the All-22 era and where we think we have this guy a little bit before. And while we were both saying there's a really good chance that this guy is number 1, and I haven't really made my final decision yet, the difference between him and the other guys at the top of my list is 15 pounds or more of muscle. And when you're talking about the elite, the guys that can really play cornerback at every aspect of the game, again, Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, those are the other guys that I had at the top of my list. Those guys can do everything too, right? They might not have the ball skills that Hunter have, but they can do everything too. But they're a lot bigger. And I do worry that if Hunter doesn't gain weight, there's going to be times where he's missing 3 or 4 games a season just because he's going to get banged up at this size. As much as the NFL is getting smaller, guys are getting smaller, it's starting to maybe switch back a little bit where the running game is more important again. Running backs are coming back. And you look at Tank Dell, right? Tank Dell was unbelievable with what he could do, but there are going to be injuries when you're a smaller guy. It's just inevitable. So I do worry about that. And that's the only thing keeping me back from saying, this is my cornerback 1 of the all-22 era. This might be cornerback 2 for me. I don't know. I'm still not there yet, but I'll tell you soon.
If 15 pounds was all it took that I needed to make up the difference, I think I'd have been in the league. So maybe that's just me, but I'll say it. He's my cornerback 1 of the era. Better than to me than Stingley, Surtain coming out. Prospect wise, to me, I think he's number 1. I think he's phenomenal. But the concerns are valid. I mean, he had the you call it a cheap shot, but the I think it was a kidney injury that he had in 2023. He missed some time. So yes, the counterpoint to that would be, okay, he's kind of an Iron Man. He plays both ways, played a ton of snaps, but he did also miss some time as a result of some hits. So it's a valid concern, but certainly not one that makes you drop him on your draft board or anything like that. It's just, okay, all time, where do you slot him with that in mind? That's the conversation to have.
Yeah, and when that's great context. When we're talking about this draft class, this is easily my cornerback 1. It's not close. And you're talking about him, again, like cornerback is an up and down position that I don't necessarily want my team drafting super, super high when there's other elite prospects at other positions available. But this is maybe the exception, right? Because of what he can bring to the table at cornerback as maybe the number 1 cornerback of the era, or as a player that can play cornerback all game, but then also give you 2 or 3 series at wide receiver, right? In certain packages. That is special. There is something special to that. The second guy that I had of the guys we reviewed today is Trey Amos for me. Again, just really quick for the audio only people, 23 years old, 6'1", 190, played 3 years at Lafayette, 1 at Alabama, 1 at Ole Miss, almost 2,500 career snaps, 4 interceptions, 25 pass breakups. This is a guy that has, in my mind, maybe the most positional flexibility on the defensive side of the ball out of any prospect, any cornerback that we're talking about today, right? This is a guy that's got size to play outside. He can play press. He has the ability to play man, like in a true man coverage. Maybe not the elite speed you want as a number 1 corner, but he does have the ability to do it. He is really good breaking skills, coming downhill. He did that repeatedly really well. Speed isn't really a concern other than that, again, when you're man to man with a really fast receiver, maybe it becomes a concern a little bit. But to me, most times it's not a concern. I thought he had great form, great skill in his back pedal, kept square, and good ball skills. It's not Travis Hunter ball skills, but it's good ball skills. So I like all of the flexibility that he gives me, but I don't think he's as impactful as he can be in the run on film. I don't think that he has the big playability that you want. If you're saying, I'm drafting this guy to be my number 1 corner, I think you want more of that turnover, like playability at that number 1 corner position. To me, this is more of like think about Greg Newsome and what he's been able to do as the number 2 for the Browns, but being like almost the most high-end number 2 corner that there is, or at least one of them. It's definitely not the best, but it's one of them, right? I think he offers that. And because of that, I do think that there is going to be a team that at the end of the first round or very early second round says, this is a guy that I'm going to feel really comfortable with throwing out in any situation and knowing that he's going to be able to compete. Is he going to be the best player on the field? No, but he's going to be able to compete in any situation. So for me, he's my cornerback 2 of the guys we talked about today.
Wow. I don't have him at cornerback 2 because of my concerns that I went through. I was definitely bad cop during the session. To me, he's a late second round type of player. He reminds me of Joey Porter Jr. with his build, right? I don't know if it's those half white long sleeves there that kind of always make the arms look a little bit longer than they actually are, but he looks really long and is physical and gets his hands on you and kind of controls the action that way, which I love. In a cylinder, he's phenomenal. If you're in a Tampa 2 or a cover 3 type, the old Legion of Boom defense, I think he's perfect for that. I worry about outside the cylinder. And I think when I compare him to a name like Porter Jr., when I look at the frame and profile of the player, well, this isn't Joey Porter's game per se. In college, he was able to carry some of those routes inside better than Amos was or is at this point of his career. And so for me, that separator, if you have Porter Jr. as a late first round type of player, he went 32nd overall. And I think the Dolphins forfeited their pick. So he was like first pick, second round. So in any event, late first, I think the lack of ability to consistently do that for me from someone like Amos, that's the difference between a high second rounder and perhaps more of a mid second round type of player, because I do think in that LSU game, I think they started to figure out what works against him when it came to kind of carrying routes across the field, really making him run. Don't get into that phone booth with him. Don't fight in that cylinder. Move, almost like moving the pocket before a receiver, right? And with the motions that are involved where you can get guys space off of the line of scrimmage in the NFL, I think that's the thing where he can have some vulnerabilities. And again, that's not saying he's a bad player. I think he's a great player. He's probably a top 50 player in the class. A second round grade is very, very good. I'm just trying to drill the holes in his game to say, this is why he's not a first round type of player to me. And it's that right there. That's what separates him from someone like, we talked about Travis Hunter and some of the other names here that we get into. So that's kind of where I land with Amos.
We're going to talk right now about Jahdae Barron, who is 23 on draft day, 5'11", 200 pounds, 5 years at Texas, 2,600 plus career snaps, 8 interceptions, 5 last year, 17 career pass breakups, 9 last year. Ray. So I watched 2 games, complete games of each of these guys, plus a highlight tape. And Jahdae Barron, the reason I was not as high on him as you were is because I watched all of Ohio State. And I don't know if you did, but the Ohio State game gave me a lot of concern. One thing, I'll start with the things I like. I always do, right? And I'm to your point, right? I don't want to crap on a guy who is going to be a phenomenal NFL player and has a lot of promise and is trying to make some money, right? But there's positional flexibility for him to be outside or in the slot. I do think his height, he might be a little shorter than 5'11", even though that's his listed size. So I'm a little worried about him on the outside versus some bigger guys. Great experience. We're talking about 5 years as a player at Texas with 2,600 plus career snaps. Great experience. And like we talked about when we were doing the film breakdown, this is a guy at corner that was calling out plays and calling things out for the defense as if he was a linebacker. That is special. That is next level intelligence that has value beyond just what he can do as the athlete. And you were completely right. This guy as an athlete is phenomenal. The way he's able to play off coverage, match routes, start and stop quicker than most of the guys we talked about, not named Travis Hunter, all amazing pluses and reasons why he will get drafted highly. The things that bothered me is I think when I watched the Ohio State game, there were times where he didn't even try in the run game, like where he just was like, not for me, I'm out. Like, no, thank you. There were plays where he ends early, right? We're like, kind of, we talked about that Amos play where the tight end, makes like 3 cuts and, he gets away from him, but he's still going after him. But there were plays with Barron where he gives up and he stopped, running the route with the receiver. He just lets it go. And it bothered me. I'm like, it showed a little bit of a lack of intensity from him that I don't want to see, right? Like, I don't want to see that, especially against Ohio State, especially in, like a championship level game where if you win it, you're going and playing for a chip. Like, I don't want to see that. Right. And it just happened over and over and over again in the film where, again, just like plays where it's not over yet and he's walking on the field. So like for me, when I see a guy that played for 5 years in college, he's 23 years old on draft day, I expect a little bit more poise, a little bit more of that commitment and just like drive and leadership. Because I saw it so much on like before plays, I wanted to see it all the way to the end of the play, and it bothered me.
So I couldn't bear to watch. I'm not able to watch playoff games just quite yet, but I did also see Florida and I think it was Michigan for Barron, and particularly because I wanted to see, especially for Michigan, okay, how's he doing in the run game? And so I note those concerns. Maybe I had a lower expectation because he is probably 5'10", 180. To where I'm not digging him as much for that because it's almost like it's baked into the stock price. And I think we showed the one play there against, I think that was the Georgia one. I wanted to keep it to Georgia there. It wasn't anything spectacular by the running back, and he still couldn't really square up and really make an impact in the run game. But in general, what I like about Barron is, and he's not a first round player for me. And to be fair, I probably only have like 15 first round grades in this class based on what I've studied so far. But I think he can be very good in a certain role. And that role to me is really, really hard. Nickel gets tougher and tougher every year. And I think he does a great job at what those types of players are asked to do. And I think his style, especially when we're talking all 22, I think he's going to grade very well. I don't think he's going to be put into many instances where he has to be the force player in the run game. I think almost like a Jordan Lewis type of role, where he can match up in coverage against a running back if he's in a big nickel type of situation, or in the slot in kind of off coverage there, and really allow the defense to disguise what they're doing, because he can be deployed in so many different variations of coverage that he's going to be a big asset to a defense. So I don't think he's a number one type of corner. I don't think he has the physical frame and ability for that. And there is a liability in the run game. But when you have a chess piece like that can allow you to disguise what you're doing, because he can do so many different things from multiple spots in the defense and do them well, that to me is a huge asset. So that's why I have him in the second round, because he does so much. I don't think he's ever going to be elite. Like I think you have to go into someone like Jahdae Barron knowing what the ceiling is. You could love his style of play, but you have to go in understanding that his ceiling is less than even a Trey Amos, given the size and physicality and frame that someone like Amos has. Barron doesn't have that type of ceiling, but boy, he could be a glue guy for a great defense and really just bring everything together and grade well because of it. And I think that's what you're looking for. So it's almost like a luxury pick, but not really, because it's an ever increasingly important role in the NFL.
So that's what I agree with you 100%. I think there's a fantastic role for this guy on any team in the NFL, but I don't think you can use him as a number one corner. You can't say I'm drafting this guy to be my number one. And that's my concern, is spending a first round type pick on a guy like that. So I also had him maybe towards the second half of the second round, early third round, latest kind of player, just because that's where I've seen, like, unless you're the Packers and you take Eric Stokes in the first round, like, drive me absolutely insane. Like, these kind of corners don't typically go that early, because guys, like, you really only take shots on first round picks at corner if they are guys that could potentially be first round guys or number one corner guys. Let's go to a guy I was kind of talking up earlier in Darien Porter from Iowa State. Again, 24 years old, 6'4", 200 pounds, only played 694 defensive snaps, converted from receiver, 3 career interceptions, 4 career pass breakups. I watched a couple games of this guy as well. And like I said, while we were reviewing the film, I think that there are a lot of things that he does not know how to do yet as a cornerback. And that is a lot of the form, technique, the intricacies in your back pedal and hip breaking and things like that, and the syncing that you want and matching routes perfectly. He's not there yet, right? He also might lack a little bit of the elite quickness and hip movement and feet and quick, swift feet that you want as a number one corner. This guy's 6'4". It's kind of hard for him to be that kind of a player. But to me, this is a guy that in the late second round as well, you want to take a chance on, because he doesn't have the experience of playing, cornerback that long. And what you saw on film, what I showed you earlier, is a guy that's going to be able to figure it out and is just going to be that next level athlete for you, that I think if you give him a year or two, like, he could be a number one corner on a team. I think he has that in him. The ability is there. The only other thing I'll say about this guy is the comp, totally different position. But Jordan Morgan last year, sorry about that. Jordan Morgan last year was a guy that I knew wasn't going to play tackle, right? Was probably going to be moved inside. And he ended up being a first round pick. And we didn't see that much of him this year. While, again, I'm grilling the Packers for this. Like, there were other guys I wish we took. 2-3 years from now, I think Jordan Morgan is going to be a phenomenal interior offensive lineman for us, and is going to pay dividends year after year in the future. That's kind of the similar thing I see here, where Darien Porter next year, we might not see a lot of, and it might not look great when we do see it, but years 2, 3, and 4, as he continues to build and learn the position and get comfortable, I think he could be phenomenal. And even, I don't want to put this out there, but there is a chance that if he converted to safety, he might even be better. So those are my 2 cents on him. I'm curious what you have to say.
I don't know what to make of him. I don't know what to make of Darien Porter. Because how many 6'4" corners are there? Reek Woolen and crickets. Nashawn Wright was a phenomenal bust for the Cowboys. It was an idiotic pick when they had Melifonwu on the board who went to Detroit. But in any event, there's not that many out there. And the fact that there aren't that many out there and there's not a lot of tape out there of Porter at corner gives me some pause to where, is this class deep enough at the position where I don't have to take that gamble on the unknown, because there are other bodies in that second, third round type of range that, okay, maybe they're not 6'4", and that if they hit, they have this super plus attribute that can make them a number one corner, but the range of outcomes is a little more certain, and I know I can work with that. That's what scares me. And then, of course, you get into the health, like someone like Shavon Revel, who's 6'3", so it's only 1 inch. What's the big deal? It's actually a pretty big deal. It makes a difference. Don't clip that. But it does. It matters. And so it's one of those where, do I have the stomach to take that risk if it doesn't work out? Because I see the path that you lay out there for someone like Porter to grow into the position based on what he's shown thus far and be a real asset for a defense. I could also see 2 years from now, it just kind of doesn't ever really come together. And then you try to move him to safety and it's another position. And then it's like, now he's already up for contract and he never has really found a home in the NFL. I see that too. And it's just a matter of risk preference to me, where I don't know if I want to put him in the third round or the second round. I take more gambles in the third. You notice some teams in particular take gambles in the second, but that's more of a philosophical thing than anything else. But to me, he's a third because of the uncertainty. Like I wish I could have seen 2 years of this, and then I have 2 data points to say, okay, here's his progression from year 1 to year 2. From snaps 0 to 500 and then 500 to 900. Here's the difference. And now I say, okay, I know what I'm working with. I see the trajectory one way or the other. We don't have that. And if I have other corners on the board, I might be going that route because, again, there's more certainty there.
Those are all good points. And I actually wanted to get into Shavon Revel next. He's our last guy anyway, so it worked out. But just, again, overview, 23 years old on draft day, 6'3", 193 pounds, 3 years at East Carolina, 880 career snaps, 3 interceptions, 12 pass breakups. So my view of his film was different because it looked like you showed a lot of 2023. So tell me about the injury, because honestly, I wasn't aware of it. So it might have very much impacted my breakdown on this guy. But what was there? What happened?
It's an ACL tear. And so it's just one of those that happened early on in 2024. So I don't think it jeopardizes his availability for the 2025 season, but he's likely not going to be able to work out. I would assume back for training camp, but that's right around the recovery timeline. So it's possible that for a rookie, he kind of has a slow ramp up in training camp, which is, you don't really want that. You want your rookies to hit the ground running and really be able to get on the field for install and things of that nature. Might not have that if you're holding Revel back to, try and fully, wait for that knee to fully recover, which never really happens until about a year and a half anyway, even with modern medicine and the technology and all these surgical techniques. So that's certainly a concern with him, is how exactly is that recovery going to go and how does that impede his progress? But unless the medicals come back at the combine showing it worse than it is, and cartilage damage or something, for example, I'm not sure it really has much of a long-term impact.
Gotcha. So I love this guy's length. Absolutely love this guy's length. Reminded me a little bit of Benjamin Morrison that we watched last week. Very physical. Shavon Revel in the run game, legit weapon in the run game. Did you watch the SMU film at all?
I did. Okay. I watched a lot of SMU film actually heading into the Christmas season for some reason. I'm sure you can't figure out why, but yeah, go ahead.
Did you watch how often they tried to attack him down the field for 50-50 balls? Did you see them repeatedly target him?
Yeah, a lot of hubris.
A lot of hubris. And the thing that concerned me is at times he lost. At times he, again, if you're saying you're the number one cornerback on your team and you're a legit top of the NFL draft type prospect, you need to be kind of where they're afraid of you. And they weren't afraid of him, and they continued to attack him, tried to go down the field. And I didn't think he had great ball skills. I didn't think he was the smoothest either. Like the reason he played a lot of press coverage is because he doesn't look that smooth when he's in space or when he's going up for a ball or whatever. Like it looks a little chunky. I think he really needs to work on that athleticism. He really needs to work on those ball skills. The press corner stuff, fantastic. I'd love to have that. But again, if you're telling me that this is a guy that's going to try to be a number one corner for a team, I need to see more. I need to see him be able to differentiate his game. And to me, that pushes him to that, again, that like later of the second round type of conversation. But that size is special, and who knows? Somebody might take him earlier.
Yeah, the pedal, it's like I almost checked every box, and then the pedaling just kind of frustrated me a bit. It's like, I get it. There are other things, he's 6'3", but there are other things that he does that are tough for 6'3" players to do, and he does them well. And the transitioning from that pedal, it looks more technical than anything else, because normally you associate that with stiff players when it comes to like actually turning and running, and that's not him. He's not necessarily that stiff. He's just upright. And that threw me off. But because I saw him do things that like in Amos really couldn't, when it came to just covering more of the field, that made me a fan. SMU they have a lot of money and they have a lot of hubris. So, and they have big receivers too. So I kind of get it, and respect to them for that, I guess. But I think when it comes to translating things to the NFL, I see a higher floor than some of the other big guys because of, assuming knee checks out, the athleticism that he displayed outside of that, to where at the very least he's a good number 2 for me. I can definitely see him. He's a starter for several years, health permitting. It's just a matter of, can he clean up some of the finer points in his game to be a true cornerback 1 in the league and a top option for a defense? Or is this just who he is? He's always going to have these blind spots in his game, and he can't really solve that. I don't know, but I'm a fan of his game, and he's a pretty tough kid too. I like how he sticks his nose in there. So that's another thing that coaches kind of fall in love with that stuff, and you'll get more playing time and snaps on the field because of it. So I have him probably early second. He's not a first round grade, so I think he's early second, but in a class like this, he could go late first, health permitting, because there's probably not a lot of first round grades overall for the class.
Yeah, the health is going to be a big one there. There were 2 other guys I had in my list of top 9 cornerback prospects, and that's Jahdae Thomas from Florida State.
Getting better at this.
Yeah, dude, I'm working on it. Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. Both of them are 20 years old, so I was really surprised you didn't bring either of those up in the film review. But both guys I liked a lot for different reasons. Jahdae Thomas, great job playing, keeping these in front of him. Really nice length. He's 6'2", 198 pounds, so really good size. And again, he's super young, so I think he can really kind of like work on some things and get a lot better. I think there's a lot of potential there for him. He is definitely raw. You definitely see the raw things. He plays high. He plays a little heavy footed, definitely gets handsy when there's separation. So certain things kind of like didn't look great, but Maxwell Hairston to me was really somebody to watch, and somebody that I like, another guy that like, could he end up being a first round guy? I think there's the potential for that to happen depending on how many teams need first round picks. But this guy plays with intensity. He is fluid athlete, similar to your Texas boy, very fluid in the way he plays the position, not afraid to come up, make tackles, plays the ball really well, great breaking skills, good form, good squat, good technique. Only thing that I had against him is I don't know if he trusts himself enough. He gives a lot of cushion. Like usually he's playing like 10 yards deep at times. Sometimes he also he won't trust himself to play the sticks. Like if it's 3rd and 10, this guy like might be dropping back like 12 yards and letting things happen in front of him that, you should be more aggressive in those situations. So I didn't love that. But again, as a 20-year-old with that athleticism, something I really liked. I think he could end up being one of those guys that somebody takes a chance on in the first round, especially again, he's 6'1", almost 190 pounds. He is good CB1 size. He could end up being that at some point in his career at only 20 years old.
So I want to watch Hairston more. And that's why I didn't put him here. And not that I didn't put him on the list, but when it came to film to actually break down here, because I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if I have him as a first or a second. He's a 1-2 for me right now. And I want to watch more. Whereas someone like Barron, I know what he is. and I wanted to fight you on him. So I figured we'll talk about him instead. But I still want to watch more of Hairston because there are things that make me go, oh yeah, that's a first round player. I love that. Then there's others where it's like, why does Kentucky seem to not really put more on this kid's shoulders? If you have a first round talent, you want to put more on him and maybe roll coverage elsewhere and kind of take advantage of that. And it seemed like they weren't doing that. And that was frustrating to me because you should want to do that to allow your best players to make more of an impact. But it also made him a bit harder to evaluate for me. And I just wanted to watch more. But there are things there that make me consider him for a first round grade, but I'm not quite there yet. So for me, I have Travis Hunter, I have Will Johnson, and then it's between Hairston and Revel for like my cornerback 3 at this point. And I just want to watch more of Hairston before I make up my mind on that.
Okay. Yeah, that I was going to say before we wrap up, let's give like a little taste of our final rankings. So it sounds like we both have Hunter at 1. I think that's pretty obvious. And it sounds like we both have Will Johnson at 2. And after going through this exercise, I think it's clear Will Johnson is the number 2. And I also think in this class, there's a chance that he is top 10, top 15 pick, almost a shoe-in for top 15, as long as the injury stuff checks out. So we're on the same page there. Your number 3, you said between Hairston and Barron?
Revel and Hairston.
Revel and Hairston. So I actually had Benjamin Morrison as my number 3, but that could be totally different if that hip doesn't check out. If that hip doesn't check out, I'm dropping him way down. But there was so much I liked about Morrison on film that if it does check out, again, a super young guy, this is a guy that like I do feel comfortable saying with a little tweaking, this could be a number 1 corner for me and like a legitimately good one. So I had him at 3, and my range for him is like, I think he could be like a 20 to 25 pick guy. Like I think that's a good range for him if the hip is okay. So we see that a little bit different. And then I had Trey Amos as my number 4, the Ole Miss kid. Again, I think that there's just enough in his frame and what he's able to do that I felt the most comfortable with him. I think it's like maybe the ceiling isn't as high as some of the other guys, but the floor is much, much higher. The floor is much, much higher because I could play him in 3 different roles and know that he's going to be okay. And I had a lot of value in that. And I said, I think there's a team that could say this is a first round guy, but I have him as more of a second round guy. So we see that a little bit different. So tell me, you said Revel and Barron as your 3 and 4 kind of guys. Who's next for you?
Morrison was my 5 because I baked in the hip a little bit because even though I don't know what the injury is and the combine could say, oh, it's fine. Name a top corner that that has a hip injury in their history.
Yeah, I can't.
Not even from today. How about from 10 years ago? Any? I can't. And so that it's terrifying to me. But I'm not a doctor. So I kind of like the player. So I'll put him at 5 in my top 5 because people who know more than me when it comes to that stuff could tell me one way or the other about the hip. But anecdotally, I don't see that. Right. So that's where I have him. So that's my top 5 right there with Morrison at the 5, because if it all checks out, like I said, that's on the previous episode, that's my type of corner right there. 5'11 plus ish, can just flip the hips and really mirror receivers and things of that nature. Now he has to get better tackling. Like I said, you can't draft him in the AFC North. You just can't with those running backs. That's a real concern for me. But 20 years old? That's exactly what I'm looking for. Long, but not stiff. Can mirror, can turn, can run. He checks a lot of boxes, but the injury is concerning. And so it's kind of an incomplete, but it's one of those things where even if in a few weeks, probably more like a month or so, if we start hearing positive things from the combine medicals and things of that nature, in the back of my head, I'm still going to say, okay, you say that, but I can't point to anybody else that has a hip injury in their history. And, oh yeah, look, that's a Pro Bowl level corner. That's a top 25 corner. I don't see that. I don't see that anywhere in the league. Maybe I'm missing it. Correct me in the comments, but that's my concern is even if I get good news, I'm not sure I could fully trust it.
I completely agree. I kind of kept it out for now. We'll see how the draft season goes and see how that changes. But those are the guys that I have at the top 4. I think Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, I said, right, I could definitely see a team reaching on him and taking him in the first round because of what can be unlocked. I have him in the second round. He's my next guy at 5. But I really think that everybody else, it's like mid to late second round. It's Darien Porter, it's Shavon Revel Jr., Azareye'h Thomas, and Jahdae Barron. Those guys all in the same kind of conversation. I had it in that order. It's Porter, Revel, Thomas, Barron for me. So 6, 7, 8, and 9. Barron being last, unfortunately, just because, again, he's an older prospect, and I think there's limits to what you can do with him. But again, there might be a team at the end of the first round that goes, this kid is exactly what our team is missing, so I'm going to take this guy. And I wouldn't be surprised by that. And I also wouldn't be upset by it because the kid's super talented. I mean, you kind of made it seem like Porter was a little bit lower for you. He would probably be at the end of your list. Where did you have Azareye'h Thomas?
I had him, he was the last one, and I probably it was influenced by the Senior Bowl a bit because those concerns you mentioned, they stood out at the Senior Bowl, which is one-on-ones. It's like those combine drills where they're designed to make you look unathletic so we could see where your flaws are. One-on-one at the Senior Bowl, if you're kind of stiff, you're bigger than everybody else, and they have all that space to work with, you're not going to look good, but you didn't look good. And that's a concern to me. He had all of the concerns that you would typically have for a bigger corner. And that worries me a bit. The age is helpful. I would like, honestly, and I hate people who poo-poo the combine. Oh, it's worthless, but they're in tights. No, BS. You can learn a lot, okay? I literally learned about Abraham Lucas through the freaking combine just watching him move. I want to see how he moves. And then I can kind of put that together with his profile, his age, and back to the tape. I think he's one of those names where, based on the combine, you're going to want to revisit his tape one way or the other, either to verify some good things you saw or to really make sure that those bad things you saw weren't as prevalent in the tape as they were in the combine. I think either way, he's someone I'm going to watch again. But right now, I have him at the bottom of that list because the Senior Bowl kind of scared me.
That's very fair. All right, everybody, we got to run. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF. Go sign up, all-22.com, or go to the App Store and download the app today. Give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Have a great rest of your day.